Welcome to Beyond the Lab, a series by the Office of Career Development in the Biomedical Research, Education, and Training Department of the Vanderbilt University School of Medicine. I'm here today with Amy Elliott, who received her PhD at Vanderbilt, and so we're excited to have you back. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So tell me about your time that you had training here at Vanderbilt.
So I had a great time at Vanderbilt through the IGP program. I came in not expecting to do what I ended up doing, and I tried out a whole bunch of things in the first year and ended up in David Piston's lab in molecular physiology and biophysics, where I spent 4 years doing some really exciting research in islet biology and doing some methods and technology development. And I finished up in 2014 and headed straight for my current position, which is a postdoc at NIH.
Okay, what do you do there?
So when I was finishing up my PhD, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to focus on in a postdoc. And I wanted to really learn design and development of instrumentation, because I didn't want to find myself in the position of having a biological question that I wanted to answer for which there was no technology. So I figured, okay, well, I'll just learn how to build my own and I'll be set for life. And so the postdoc that I have is a collaborative postdoc between 2 labs at NIH, one in the National Institute of Mental Health and one in the National Institute of Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering. And so I've got an engineering lab and a biology lab, and I went there to learn how to build a light sheet microscope so that we could look at neuronal activity in fruit fly brains.
Okay. Why is the job a good fit for you?
It's a good learning fit because I wanted to learn how to build instrumentation, but I also wanted to still be engaged in biology. And so it ended up being almost a tailor-made situation for me because I got to be in a neuroscience lab, which is really exciting for me, and also in an engineering lab to learn the skills that I didn't have. It has been, I think the most challenging thing and most rewarding thing has been communicating between my collaborating labs, because I'm the only one that has all of the information about my project. And so translating that into engineering speak, into computer science speak, into biology speak has been both very rewarding and very challenging. It has made me learn things that I would never have learned otherwise, and even things that I didn't expect to learn, even knowing that I was going to have to do that in the first place. So it's been a fantastic learning experience.
Okay, so tell me how you landed this job. How did you know where to look, and what was the process to get it?
Okay, so that's an interesting one. I applied like everybody else. I wrote emails to people that I was interested in doing postdocs with. I vetted my entire list with my PI because I had a spectacular graduate mentor. And I decided I wanted to work with Hari Shroff at NIH. And he is an engineer, and his lab is really famous for building specialized high-resolution microscopes. And so that was where I wanted to go, but he didn't have a position available at the time. And so I applied to other places, did some interviews, and then my graduate lab interviewed a postdoctoral candidate, and the postdoctoral candidate that we interviewed had spent a summer with Hari and said that he might have a position opening up. And so I emailed Hari again, and he was like, well, as it happens, there's this collaborative thing that's getting off the ground, and maybe that would be a good fit for you.
How is this fellowship in the NIH organized? Like, what is it that, I think that it's called a Pratt Fellowship, so
Yeah.
Tell me how that works.
So it's a grant.
Okay.
So it's an FI2 category grant. It exists in NIH Reporter. It's a real thing for me as a mark of my own independent funding, which is fabulous. Independent being the key word because it gives me some say in what it is that I do on a daily basis, irrespective of either of my mentors. Because the communication thing is a little bit difficult, it's great to be able to drive my own direction a little bit. It's 3 years of funding, and you apply for it either going into NIH out of graduate school with a preceptor at NIH, or you can apply for it within your first year or two at NIH. And so it's technically a training program. It's the only intramural one, I think, that exists.
Right.
So it's very competitive, but they provide a lot of good resources for career training and activities, and it's been a really supportive situation. I have a cohort of grant mates, and we're all really good friends, and we'll be collaborators, I hope, through the rest of our careers.
So tell me, working at the NIH, what it is like, compared to sort of an academic environment.
There are a number of things that are similar and a number of things that are different. So there are 27 institutes at NIH. It's very, very broad, which means that everything in the world that you could possibly want to do is happening somewhere at NIH if you can find it. And that is sometimes a little tricky. One of the things that's difficult if you want to do an academic career is getting teaching experience. And if you want to do anything else, then you have to sort of push to seek that out. There is an Office of Intramural Training and Education, and they have actually a lot of really amazing resources. Reminded me a bit of the Brett office from my graduate school days, and that's a fantastic resource for getting those kinds of experiences. But because nobody in the intramural program is accustomed to writing grants or handling the kind of teaching and administrative load that you have extramurally, you have to be sort of on top of it to seek that out for yourself.
Okay. So what are the things that, the skills that you gained at Vanderbilt that best prepared you for your current role as a postdoc?
That's a good question. So I think collaborations is a big one. I came out of a really collaborative lab and a really collaborative department. And so I got to learn how to interface with other scientists and how to translate skills and techniques from one question to another. And I think that has been extremely valuable driving a highly collaborative project myself. And some of the other things that were really helpful for communication training and just general existing in a team environment were the retreats that my department had and some of the Brett office activities. I participated in the Tech Venture Challenge in Life Science Tennessee, and all of these things that kept me sort of a little bit out of the lab also kept my skills, a little bit out of the lab, which I think has been very valuable.
So I want you to tell me a little bit about your startup and because I know that you're not just a postdoc, so tell me a little bit about your other venture.
So when I was a graduate student here, I was very heavily involved in Tech Venture in Life Science Tennessee, and so I met another young woman who was very interested in starting a company on a specific thing, and so I met her through the director of the Entrepreneurship Center at the time, and he said we should chat, and so we sat down at Fido and had a conversation, and that was how the idea sort of bloomed. And what we decided to do was, what the idea was personalized nutrition, basically. And so the low-hanging fruit that we chose to run with is chronic kidney disease, because there is an established dietary guideline, and it's just very difficult to meet. So we filled that niche by creating foods that people that have a renal diet can consume. And so we sell them direct to consumer online, and we sell them at dialysis clinics. Okay.
And so how did you know, everyone wants to know more about startups because they're so different and they start up different ways. What are some of the things that you would want to share with someone who was interested in doing something like that kind of venture?
I think, so I've been doing that longer than I've been doing science. I started the entrepreneurship route in undergrad by interning with the Tech Transfer Office. Vanderbilt has a fantastic CTTC, and so I know those opportunities exist. I would recommend shadowing, interning, spending time at an actual startup, anything that you can do to get a handle on what that environment is like. One of the benefits of being in a startup is you have to wear many different hats. Difficult to learn to wear many different hats before you have an opportunity to do that. And so I think one of the most important things about it is to have a healthy relationship with risk, because startups start and fail on a very regular basis. And so graduate school uniquely prepares you for that, in that you are constantly associated with some sort of failure at the experimental level, at the paper level. Like, there are a number of opportunities to practice failure, and I think that is already a step in the right direction.
Okay. So sounds like you do some networking. What are some of your strategies for developing professional relationships?
So they're different. In the business community, I meet people mostly by meeting other people. So that is both serendipitous and with effort. So you find things like Life Science Tennessee to participate in. When I was an undergrad, there was the Indiana Biomedical Entrepreneur Network that I used to go to meetings for. And so you have to be a little bit extroverted. It's the kind of thing that isn't going to come to you. You have to go to it, and that is a commitment and a little bit of work, especially if you are an introverted person. So it's a little bit difficult. In the academic environment, it's a lot easier actually because you have conferences that you go to and there are already numerous opportunities, seminars where you can just reach out and meet somebody. All of our pictures are available on the internet, so you already know who it is that you need to meet. It's just a matter of getting up the courage to go and meet that person.
Yeah. Okay, so if you wanted to share some words of wisdom with current PhD students and postdocs, what would be sort of the main takeaways you'd give them?
At the PhD student level, I think something important to do is get as much exposure as possible to what is available to you. So if you are going to do a postdoc, which most of us are going to do postdocs even if we decide we're going to go a different route anyway, you have limited time and less opportunity as a postdoc to get exposure to regulatory affairs, communication, all of the various other things that really could use PhDs that you don't find out about unless you look for it or unless you decide all of a sudden that you need to go that route. So I recommend at the graduate level, get as much exposure as possible so that you know what holes in your CV you need to fill. Because the sooner you start filling those holes, the easier it's going to be when you need to make the transition.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. That's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.